Yes. And we should be live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 7. I think. Oh, there we go. It just went. Perfect.
6, 7, 8, 9, 5.
Whenever I'm helping my dad with something, like he'll call me up and he'll be like, "Can you come over? It'll take 15 minutes." 3 hours later, we're still doing whatever it is. But like if we're gonna move something heavy, he'll be like, "All right, 1, 2, 27." Same joke. I'm sure he was doing that joke before I was born, but
Right.
I'm in my 40s. And that has been the joke. 1, 2, 27. And damn it if I don't use it every once in a while, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's funny how little things of your childhood just keep popping up all the time. Like there's things my mom and dad used to say back when I was a kid, and I'm starting to see other people say them, and I'm just like, okay, this world is weird. The simulation that we're in is reusing assets, I think, is what's happening.
Reusing assets. That's great. All right, man. Are you ready to talk about video games?
I am. I'm just going to tweet out that we're live.
I was gonna do that too. So you go ahead and do it, and then I will retweet it, sir.
Okay, tweeted.
Did you mention me so I don't have to go looking for it?
I didn't because I couldn't fit it in. So
oh, that's fair. I have to search for you now. Dasme. Hey guys, if you don't follow Lloyd, he's Dasme on Twitter.
Hello, chat room. How's everybody doing this fine Sunday morning?
We'll like that, and then I'm even gonna fleet it. I'm gonna use fleet.
Oh, wow, you're pretty elite.
Fleet.
How are the cats? The cats are good. One of our cats decided to tear into the bottom of our box spring mattress and go in because there's that black see-through fabric on the bottom, and she thought it was a great idea to climb into our box spring, and we got her out, and that was fine. And then both cats were in our box spring, and that was fine. And then we're trying to figure out ways to stop this. So we turned the box spring around. They got in through the side, the bottom side. So they got in there. There's little cat footprints inside because they had like litter dust on their paws or whatever. So it was pretty funny. We solved it by taking safety pins and pinning where they got in, and turn the mattress around, and then put an under bed storage thing right where that hole was. So they were not able to get in. They were fine. Everything was fine. And then they started pulling at a corner of our box spring underneath. And I'm sleeping, and all I hear is like as they're tearing the fabric. And I'm like, get the hell, making noise. So they all take off, close the door. And I'm like, okay, how are we going to fix this? Came up with an ingenious solution to this problem. Went to Amazon. I ordered fitted sheets that you'd put on your mattress, and I put it on down. I put it on the bottom side of the box spring. They're confused. They're like, this toy that I like, that I could see through, and there was stuff behind it, is not there anymore. They're all super confused, and it worked. It was just like this crazy brainstorm hack, and I think we've saved our mattress, which is fantastic.
That's fantastic. Our cats never do anything. Like, our cats will try and get into the garbage.
Yeah,
so
one of our
irritating.
cats likes chewing plastic bags of all things.
Yeah,
so
our cats chew on plastic, or like they sit there and, like, if we bring in a case of like bottled water, they'll sit there and lick the plastic, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you, you weirdos?
That's one of our cats does that. Juno does that, where if there's a little corner of a black plastic bag in our garbage, she'll sit there and she'll lick it and chew on it and pull on it. And so we have to basically put it inside the garbage can that we have in our kitchen for some strange reason. And the fabric on the bottom side of our mattress was the same thing. She was just she gets obsessed with something and then won't leave it alone. So hopefully we've taken that craziness away from her, and she'll move on to bigger and better things.
All right, I'm gonna hit a button. Are you ready to record?
Let's do it.
All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to Stadiacast. We took a week off, and it was very refreshing to not have to get up and work on the weekend, but I'm excited to get back and talk to you guys about Stadia. I'm Bill. That's Lloyd. What's going on, Lloyd?
It's not much, man. It's weird that it's been 2 weeks since we last did a show. It's weird. It's very weird. I'm happy to be back to talk about Stadia.
There was a lot that happened in those 2 weeks. We're like,
Exactly.
I remember I was kind of struggling with the fact that we had decided to take this Easter Sunday off, because I was like, man, there's a lot of news to talk about. But that's okay. We could talk about it next week. It's still there as news. Before we do get started with actually talking about the show, we do record this live over on our YouTube channel over at nerdnest.tv, U.S. Eastern, 10 a.m. every single Sunday, except for apparently Easter. And if you are here with us live and you want to support the show, you can become a member. You can use super chats. You can, if you're not here live, you can click the applaud button afterwards, and that all supports the show. And of course, you could buy a shirt or a tote bag or a sticker or something like that. All of our merchandise is there as well. We always start the show with what we've been playing. Lloyd, what have you been playing, man?
I've been playing lots, dude. It's been a good gaming couple weeks. First off, let's talk about Outriders, man. I know you've been playing it as well. I've been playing it. I really like the game. I like everything about the game. So the setting, the world, the characters, the voice acting, the story, just kind of everything that's around it. And I've played other games like that where I really love the setting, and then you get into the gameplay and it's just like, oh, okay, well, the setting's cool, but that's about it. I'm happy to say that Outriders hasn't done that to me yet. I've played probably about 10 to 12 hours on my main character. I've played a combination between on Stadia, which is still on version 1. I've played a little bit on Series X on version 1.3 just to see what the difference are, or 1.2 or whatever the patch level is. I really hope that Stadia gets the patch really soon, because a lot of the performance issues that are in that version seem to be fixed on the Xbox version. So I'm hopeful that we'll get a patch in the next week or so, and the Stadia version will be much better. But I love everything about it. It takes kind of like the gunplay, the cover-based shooting mechanic from Gears of War. The roadie running from cover to cover is there. It takes kind of the looter shooter mechanics of, say, a Division, and puts it there. It takes the class-based powers and just kind of overpowered magic kind of stuff that you get from, say, Destiny, and it smushes it all into one game, and it actually works. Usually when you take these disparate elements, something sticks out like a sore thumb. Nothing in this game is doing that to me. I'm really loving it for so many different reasons.
Yeah, I really like the game, but man, it is a crappy port everywhere. Now I haven't played it on Xbox, but I played it on PC, GeForce Now, and on Stadia. Right now, Stadia is definitely in the worst place because it's the furthest behind as far as version numbers, like you said. But everywhere that I've played it has been a nightmare. I loaded up on my computer, and first off, my HUD isn't there. So then what I have to do is I have to go through and go into the HUD menu, turn off all of the HUD things,
Really?
get back out, turn all of the HUD things back on, then go back to the lobby, and then jump back into the game, and then my HUD is there. And this happens like every time that I start the game. I haven't had any of that issue with the Stadia version, but with the Stadia version, I just had a ridiculous amount of slowdown, and really framey stuff going on, and it was really frustrating to play. And then sometimes, like, I'll join a random group because I don't care about the story too much. I felt like the story was doing interesting things, but I want to play with other people, and trying to just follow the story makes it feel like I'm limiting myself. I can't find other people to play with because I didn't play it like right away, and so everybody's miles ahead of me. And so I was like, forget it, I'll just ignore the story, and I'm just going to play with random people. So I joined a group of random people, and they're all just standing around, and I'm like, hey everybody, can we go, shoot the bad guys? And they're just standing there AFK or something. And so I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna quit to the lobby and try and find somebody else. And when I quit to the lobby, the game crashes, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm gonna wait and tackle this game some more once it's made some progress. Maybe once the patch comes to Stadia. I also
Right.
will say, when I play Division 2 or Destiny 2 or Doom Eternal or any other shooter on Stadia, I don't feel any lag. I
Yeah.
never really noticed any lag on any of those games.
Mm-hmm.
This game feels laggy to me.
Yeah.
Really laggy. And it's not just on Stadia, it feels laggy on GeForce Now as well.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bad port, which is so weird because Square did such a fantastic job porting. I mean, I know it's not a first-person shooter, but porting Dragon Quest XI-S to Stadia,
Right.
it runs
Right.
wonderfully. So
Yeah.
I feel like maybe they just have the good port team and the bad port team, and Outriders got the bad port team or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've noticed when I first started playing on day one, I played on Stadia and then I played on Xbox, and there definitely was some lag. Like you'd go to move your aiming reticule and it would take a half second to start moving. You'd be lined up for a headshot, you'd pull the trigger, and then like a half second later the bullet would come out and you'd miss the headshot because the guy would duck down. I think most of that performance was fixed with the version 1.1 patch, because on Xbox it started playing better. Stadia hasn't gotten it, so I'm still noticing those issues. So I think there's some net code that's getting in the way here, like something with the fact that it's a kind of an always online game. Even if you're playing single player, there's still a lot of server work that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's throwing a lot of that stuff out of whack. So hopefully once the patches come out, it'll make things a little bit easier in that regards. I've been absolutely loving it. I haven't played any multiplayer. I've seen almost zero issues playing on the Xbox version in single player. There's no lag. There's no jitteriness. About the worst I've seen is I loaded in. I went to Jacob, as he calls him. I keep reading it Jacob, but he's like, Jacob, what are you doing? Blah blah blah, which makes me smile every time. And I told him to bring me from my base camp to a different camp. And when I did that, none of the geometry loaded in except for kind of like the base level geometry. So in a building, there'd be like a floor, but it's like an L shape. And you know that there's more to the floor than that, but they built it out of numerous components.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm running around and I'm kind of laughing that the world looks ridiculous. And all of the loot chests were visible because all of the walls were gone. And I'm like, this is the best bug ever. I went and I grabbed all these loot chests and got all my loot and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to travel somewhere else. Hopefully it still happens. And then the bug was fixed and it never happened again. So the bugs have been kind of fun in that regards. But I really love the gunplay. I'm playing as the pyromancer kind of character, so you light people on fire. If they die while they're on fire, you get health back. I love that Outriders takes cues from Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, where you always have to forward, because if you sit back and are just playing the like duck behind cover, pop up and take shots, you're going to keep taking damage and you're not getting any health back. So you're constantly pressured to not take damage, but then also, crap, I'm going to have to take damage if I want to heal, because there's a guy with a shield coming at me and he has a helmet on. I know it's going to be a hard fight. I got to kill these little peons first and get some of the stuff back. Yeah, man, I'm really loving the game. I love the world. I want to see how it all plays out, and I'm curious to see what Square's plan for additional content is. There isn't any open world kind of areas like a Destiny where you can just like go to the moon and just run around doing weird challenges and things like that, similar to some of the other looter shooters where you can just go to kind of open world things. You don't have to always be doing a mission. I hope some of that stuff comes. I hope that they keep adding new content and new things to do. There's side missions, but it doesn't seem like they're as plentiful as I thought that they would be. Like maybe I'm used to Cyberpunk, where you can't trip over a can without starting 3 other side missions that you can take at your own pace. So yeah, I hope there's more coming, more content once they get all these patches out there. But yeah, I really really hope that they can get every single version to the same level so that they can re-enable crossplay, because that is sorely needed on the Stadia version as well. If I want to play with some friends and whatever, not necessarily everybody wants to play on Stadia, so crossplay is going to be huge for this game in the future.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. I want to talk, like, I complained a bunch about the bugginess of the game and that it's a crappy port, but I also really like the mechanics of the game. I don't like the implementation because it feels like they released it before they should have. That's really what it feels like to me. So I fully expect that once they get a few patches under their belt, it's going to be pretty solid. I really also like the gunplay. It feels really good. The fact of the matter, or the thing that you said earlier about, you know, sitting back behind cover and kind of plinking away at somebody is not a great way to do it, because you're gonna get killed. I ran into that my first time playing, because the game is like, here's a cover mechanic, and so me as a video game player thought, oh, I need to use this cover mechanic. As soon as I got it out of my head that I needed to use the cover mechanic, I started doing infinitely better. Also, I didn't notice at the same time, I didn't notice right away that the class that I took gets a ridiculous amount of health back by killing somebody that's close to you. So I was sitting back and plinking away at them, but they were flanking me and taking my health down real fast, and I had no good way to regen my health, because I didn't realize how significant the Devastator class is up close. And when you start getting up in somebody's face, and you take out a couple of guys that are close to you, you get a huge health boost. And once that clicked with me, I was like, okay, this is really cool. The other things about this that I really like are the RPG mechanics, which are fantastic. Each class has 3 separate trees that you can kind of branch your way down to further specialize your class.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you also have, like, I could be wrong, but I think it's like 9 abilities to choose from, but you only have 3 slots. So
Right.
like you can come into a situation and be like, all right, against this particular type of boss, I probably don't want to have this ability. I want to have these 2 abilities instead, like that kind of thing. I think that that's really compelling for gameplay, and it allows people to let's be honest, somebody's going to figure out the best, the most optimal, the meta thing.
Yeah.
But you don't have to follow the meta, and it means that you and I could both play as a Devastator, but we could play completely different. There's
100%.
cat hair flying around in here.
Yeah, I love that as well. And the fact that, as you said, your Devastator could be different from my Devastator. I love the fact that you can just reset your skill tree and try something different if you need to. Like, there's no punishment. The one thing that is a little bit awkward that I wish was a little bit easier is if you want to try out the other classes, you basically have to start at the start of the game and go through kind of all the levels again. You can't just unlock a character and then replay levels you've already done with another one, which hopefully that will come, because I don't really want to replay the whole game as a Devastator and replay the whole game as a trickster person and then replay it as this, as kind of the pyromancer. I want to try those other characters without having to redo the content over and over again. But yeah, the gunplay, the magic powers that you get, the story around it, the world, like when you first drop on that alien planet and it's like something out of Avatar, it's like all beautiful jungle and floating rocks, and I'm like, oh my god, I love this world. And then you wake up from going back into cryo sleep and it's basically like the whole world's been razed and it's on fire, and I'm like, oh my god, I hate this world. And then you play some of the missions and there's little bits of both of that. I really like the story that that Square Enix is telling with this game, and I really hope that people give it a time of day, that this kind of rough launch with servers being down and all that stuff kind of is quickly forgotten and people just move on to a really, really fun title, because Outriders definitely is that. It's better than what I anticipated it would be after seeing the the demos and listening to all the pundits kind of talk about kind of the gameplay and why they are worried for this game, I'm happy to find out that really none of that is true. The game is awesome. We just need the performance to kind of get up to that same level.
Yeah, I think that in time that will happen. I've played a million. I've played quite a few games where they have had terrible launches and turned out to be really, really fantastic games. Mostly online style games like Final Fantasy 14 or Elder Scrolls Online. Like both of those games had terrible launches and turned out to be fantastic experiences later on. So I fully anticipate that this game can do that too.
Yeah.
I wish they hadn't launched it yet. I wish they'd wait till June or something and just given the devs some more time to get it right. And as far as the servers being down, that's not a big deal. That happens with every major online game because the devs plan for X number of people to be able to play all at the same time. But on day one, everybody who bought the game is trying to play at the same time. And the devs know, look, we could increase the server capacity by spending a bunch of money. But then what's going to happen is that the servers will then be like those extra servers that we buy will be useless when the community starts to go to from launch day down to its smaller consistent numbers. And so anytime that you have a game that is server based and it's a pretty hyped game, you're going to run into those server issues. So that's not a big deal at all. All right, so go ahead. You wanted to say one more thing?
Just a couple quick things. This game's launch, one's really quick. This game's launch is different than pretty much every other game like this because it was available for free on Game Pass, meaning that probably tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that wouldn't have bought the game immediately had the chance to download it and play it on day one and then run into the servers issues. So I'm sure that was kind of the reason for their big crunch. And I can't remember what else I was going to say, but we can move on.
I was just kidding, man. Okay. Real quick, I didn't spend a lot of time playing it, but I played Resident Evil 7. I did a first look on it. That's how long ago our last episode was, because that was a while back.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That game is too intense for me. And I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 8. But there's because I played Resident Evil 2 on my PS4, the remake, and that didn't bother me.
Yeah.
But playing Resident Evil 7, there's something that they did with that setting that made me so uncomfortable and anxious, and I did not like the way it made me feel. So I will probably never play it again. It's and Jerome in chat is saying scary. Yes, it's scary, but it's more than scary. There's something about it that I don't like the way it makes me feel.
Yep.
So I don't think I'll ever play it again. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad game. It's a really, really good game. Like they did a great job. And I've only played like the first 30 minutes or so. But holy cow, that was some of the most uncomfortable 30 minutes that I have ever had to deal with playing a video game. I will never go back to it again. But if you don't think it's going to bother you, I think that people should check it out because it's an extremely good port. Anytime you're playing a game on Stadia that is very, very dark, you can always tell who's done a good job and who's done not such a good job on the Stadia port, because you'll see a lot of macro blocking, big kind of gray things in the dark, which at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's not that big of a deal. But if you pause the game and you look, you're like, or if you take a freeze frame from it and you look, you're like, oh, look at that. It's kind of ugly there. And that's a streaming and compression issue. I didn't see any of that in it's a very dark game, but I didn't see any of that in this. I think that Capcom did a very good job with this game, and they did a great job with the port too.
Fantastic.
And you've played the whole thing 100% through in VR because you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
Do you think everybody should play
true.
it?
Resident Evil 7 is a great game. Bill said I played the whole thing in VR. I did, except for a couple segments that were giving me too much nausea because I get motion sickness from PlayStation VR. I played the whole thing in PlayStation VR, except for maybe an hour in total. The game is creepy. Back when the game first came out, I think I put it this way. Like Friday the 13th and Paranormal Activity are both horror movies, but they are vastly different horror movies. Older Resident Evil games are like Friday the 13th. They're gory. There's some slasher elements. There's some scary elements, but you have a lot of rest time between all those things. Resident Evil 7 is like Paranormal Activity, where the whole thing is creepy. It ramps up. It uses psychological tropes to kind of get your brain in certain things. It gets you off the edge, and it keeps pushing you off the edge as you're playing through it. That game is scary. In VR, I had to almost wear Depends, because there's times when I wanted to rip off my helmet and throw it, but then you realize you have an expensive piece of equipment on your face and you don't want to do that. So you hit pause and take a deep breath. The Stadia port of Resident Evil 7 is fantastic. It looks better than any other version that I've seen. I'm looking forward to going through some of the game. I don't think I'm going to replay it, but there are some fights in the game that I really liked that are just super scary, and things like that. The best part about Resident Evil 7 on Stadia was watching Bill's playthrough and just seeing his face and like that thing. Whenever you do that, Bill, it makes me laugh. And then the funniest thing that I've ever seen you do is as the outro's rolling on your video, I can hear you take off your headset and you're like, oh, I didn't like that at all. And then the video cuts and I'm like, oh my God, that is the most like unintended but intended hilarity that I've ever seen in one of your videos. The game is so good. If you like scary, if you like feeling like put on, like, I don't know, in a point of unease, Resident Evil 7 is definitely that. You go into a new room and it's gross. There's cockroaches, there's spoiled food, there's moans, there's people, there's things going by windows. This is a good game to scare the bejesus out of you.
And I didn't even get to a single jump scare. Like, people were giving me the comments on my video, and they were like, "You were like 5 minutes away from the first jump scare," and I was like, well, I'll never find out.
Yeah, I really hoped you got into kind of like the crawl spacey basement thing, the thing that first scared me and made me want to rip off my helmet, but I guess that's like an hour into the game or whatever. It's good. I'm actually more excited for Resident Evil Village now on Stadia because of how good of a port they did for Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, Capcom did a great job, and I want to see more Capcom games on Stadia. I want Street Fighter. I want Monster Hunter. I want Mega Man. Capcom, bring me the games, man. What else have you been playing this week?
I've jumped into Trine 4 a little bit. I love Trine, the series. I've played Trine 1 to death, beat it multiple times on different platforms. Love that game. 2 and 3 I've played. I don't believe I've finished either of them. Maybe 2. It's so long ago I can't remember. Trine 4 feels like such a breath of fresh air. The engine that they're using, the graphics remind me a lot of kind of like a refined World of Warcraft style, where everything is kind of super deformed, but not really. It looks more like kind of real human kind of ratios in your body, but the engine, the controls, everything is great, and I'm really excited to play through the rest of Trine 4 kind of at my leisure, as kind of a dinner mint to kind of cleanse my palate between other games.
It's an exceedingly pretty game.
It is very pretty, especially when you're in the kind of like the crystal area. It's just like the blues and whites and purples. It's just such a beautiful looking game. I've been really enjoying that one.
All right, let's talk about the pro games. We already talked about one of them. Resident Evil 7 came out as a pro game for this month, which is awesome. But we also got, this one made me laugh, because you kept predicting that we would get this as a pro game, and then it didn't. And then finally
one
we were
month.
like, well, let's make
I
our
didn't.
predictions, and you didn't mention it, and then it's a pro game. So Piku Niku, Ease 8, and the SpongeBob game. Of those three, which one do you think is the one that everybody needs to jump into right away?
SpongeBob. That is a platformer. It's people classify it as one of the best 3D platformers. It came out during like the GameCube era. It's a fantastic game. It is really, really good. And now that everybody that has a pro or signs up for a free 1 month pro has access to play the rehydrated version of this game, you definitely should go check it out. It's good for little kids. It's good for adults. It's good for everybody in between. It's just a really fun game. If you're not a SpongeBob fan, if you don't like that cartoon, you don't like the character, Piku Niku is a surprisingly fun game. As Bill said, I predicted it every month except for this last month. I've said Piku Niku every month. It's obviously not coming to pro, so I'm not going to predict it, and then it comes to pro. So that's the new thing I'm going to say about every game that I want to come to pro.
There you go. And I would say definitely check out Ease 8. It is a action JRPG. And you know what? I don't think that there's only one action JRPG on Stadia right now, and that would be Final Fantasy 15. This is very different than Final Fantasy 15, but it's in that same genre of it's a JRPG where it's mostly actiony instead of menu-y. I don't know if that's a word or not. But it's a really cool game. I played it before. I haven't tried it on Stadia just because I've been too busy with other stuff. But I've heard that there's a lot of people who are really, really enjoying Ease 8. And, help you get ready for that style of game when Ease 9 comes out. I think not too far from now, I believe. Let's talk really quick about Killer Queen Black, because it's not a pro game, but Killer Queen Black is also now on Stadia. You've played that one before, right?
I have. I just don't understand Killer Queen Black. Like, it's one of those games where I think I need to play local co-op with people that know how to play the game for me to really just kind of grok what you have to do. Like, I understand there's 3 ways to win. There's different character classes. I get all that. For some reason, it just doesn't seem fun to me, even though it should. I love multiplayer games. I love team-based games. This is a team-based multiplayer game that you compete with online. So I need to put a little bit more time into it. Maybe this is something that we can do as like the Nerd Nest, get all together and play together with some people that know how. Because for all intents and purposes, I should really love this game more than I do. I've tried it a couple times and it's just not clicking for me. But it plays well on Stadia, and the thing that I really love about the other versions of Killer Queen Black is the KQ TV, where you can just watch random matches play out. So if you like the game but don't want to play it at that moment, you just fire it up and it will connect you to a random match, and you can watch it play out in real time, which is a really cool feature for this game.
It's incredibly frantic, and the game, like, it would be nice if there was like a bots version where you could be like, all right, I'm gonna play against bots for like 15 matches or so, just so that I can understand the mechanics without feeling guilty for being terrible. Where I jump in and I'm playing against real people, and my team keeps losing because I decided to try out the queen and I keep getting killed over and over. But it's essentially like a MOBA, a side-scrolling MOBA with Joust mixed in. And it's really, really cool. I love the art style so much. And I also like the fact that after each match, you can hit a button that says, let's mix up the teams, so that, you're not necessarily like, if you get on a map and you got these 4 people who are like incredibly good together, you can mix it up and say, all right, well, now we've got a fighting chance by splitting them up. Although you can also play it competitively, where it's a team versus a team. But I think it's a really good game, and it's really cheap on Stadia as well. I don't know if the price is still $10 for Pro, but it was $10 for Pro at launch, and it was $14 for everybody else. It's a great game. And the other thing that's really cool about it is it is 100% cross-platform. So if like when I loaded it up, I could see people who had little Mario icons next to their name because they were clearly playing on the Nintendo Switch. So it's
Right.
cross-platform across all versions of the game, which is
So
really,
good.
really awesome.
Yeah, so good. I really hope that multiple games like this come to Stadia, like these big multiplayer competitive or cooperative games, because Stadia really is kind of the best platform for something like that. You can play on your phone, you can play on your PC, you can play on your TV, you can play on your tablet. You kind of play wherever you are. And for a game as quick as Killer Queen Black, where a round can be over in 5 seconds or it can be over in 5 minutes, depending on the teams that are playing, having something that you can quickly pick up and play on your phone or whatever would be great in the future. So this is a great title for Stadia. I really want to know why I don't like this more than I do. And you saying MOBA, that word is kind of like my kryptonite. So I think that might be part of it. It might be the MOBA roots to this game that is making it not click in my brain for whatever reason.
So another 16-bit style game that came out on April 1st is Cosmic Star Heroine, which is an old school style, like Super Nintendo era RPG that involves like time travel. It has a very Chrono Trigger style of combat. Very, very cool game. Last time that we talked about it, it was just rumored thanks to either Peggy or ESRB leaking it or something. But now it's officially on Stadia. I haven't played it on Stadia because I've already played it on, I think, 2 other platforms. So I don't really feel the need to go back to it. But and honestly, it's going to run exactly as well on Stadia as it does on those other 2 platforms. But, you know, have you played that game, Lloyd?
I haven't. It's one of those games that I've always meant to pick up on, like either the on the Switch or PC or whatever. Haven't. I'm super tempted to just buy the Stadia version and finally drop into it and play it. So that might happen over the next little bit. Because this game, the graphics, the gameplay, and everything, it's right up my alley for sure.
All right, if you guys want Lloyd to do a first look at Cosmic Star Heroine, leave a like down below, all right? Let's go ahead and move on to the next up on Stadia. So that was the this week in Stadia. Then we have the next up on Stadia. I like that they have this nomenclature.
Can we just pause for a second and just say how Stadia PR has been knocking it out of the park? Congratulations to Stadia team. Congratulations to all of their PR partners, everybody that works on it. We used to get one thing a week, and that was it. Maybe. And now we're getting 4 drops a week, 3 drops, 2 drops. Like, it all depends on the week. They're not saving it for that one big email every Tuesday. They're putting out information whenever that they have the information to come out. And it really is telling the tale that while people said that the closure of SG&E was kind of the first death rattle of the platform, that's clearly not true. It's just the platform's going in a bit of a different direction. So congratulations to everybody in the PR. You're killing it right now.
Yeah, it's been like 2 or 3 posts a week from them, which is awesome. Like it's especially awesome for us because it gives us a lot of stuff to talk about, which is very, very cool. So in the next up on Stadia, there were 2 things that they mentioned: Floor Kids and Bloodstained. Now, of these 2, the one that is incredibly unique is the one that's a little less interesting to me, just because I'm not super into this style of game. That's Floor Kids. But then the other one is a Castlevania style game. And of course it is, because it's from, I believe it's Igarashi, the guy who did like Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
That's right. Iga did the Kickstarter for this one, and it's coming to Stadia, which is fantastic.
And they both of these games, I've heard nothing but good things about Floor Kids. It just doesn't, like a breakdancing game is not appealing to me as a gamer. But I've heard that it's great. Have you played Floor Kids?
I have. I played this game on Switch. I absolutely love the game. We did an interview with the development team, with the people that made it. The soundtrack for the game is done by Kid Koala. It's a breakdancing rhythm action game where you are putting moves together to be the best breakdancer that you can in this world. It's made by real breakdancers and people that are in kind of like the kind of the underground music / breakdancing scene. So this, if you're part of that scene, you're gonna love this game. If you're not, and you like rhythm action games, you're gonna love this game. The game is absolutely fantastic, and for this to come to Stadia is a huge get, because I don't think a lot of people know about this title unless they played it on Switch or whatever. But this is one of the best rhythm action games that I've played in the last little bit. And to have it come to Stadia is great. And yeah, it's animated by John, and the music's by Kid Koala. So they're all, I mean, those names say a lot to a lot of people out there. If you like the work of John or Kid Koala, you're going to love this game, because kind of the vibe and the heart from the breakdancing scene is kind of all thrown into this game. It's fantastic.
Even though the game does not appeal to me, because I'm not a huge fan of the rhythm action genre, I will say that the art style is all like hand-drawn style. For those of you who are listening to the show, you can't see what it looks like, but it's all looks like colored pencils almost on paper. I adore the art style, and the animation is very, very cool as well. There's definitely, you can definitely tell just by looking at it that they painstakingly went through and almost like rotoscoped people and then turned those into caricatures. Well, that's a hard word to say. Turn those rotoscopes into like caricatures in order to get the art style that they had, because it's fantastic looking.
Yeah, it is. This is a really, really good title, and I'm glad to see it coming to Stadia. As am I with Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. When the game launched, it was rough. They came back and they patched it. They made this game what it should have been at launch, and I've played it on 2 platforms. I'll play it on a 3rd platform. I love Castlevania games. This is kind of a love letter to Castlevania by the person that made Castlevania that then couldn't make Castlevania anymore because Konami. And yeah, this game is fantastic. If you loved Castlevania Symphony of the Night, this has some of those elements, and they've taken it a little bit further as well. It's a really, really good Metroidvania title.
I really like the art style of it as well. The animation of the main character as they're running around is very, very good. And everybody says that this game's fantastic. I've never played it, but I'm definitely looking forward to playing it. And I just watched this trailer for the first time. Shovel Knight's in this? What the hell? Did you see that?
Well, you've seen that with Kickstarter games, where a lot of the big Kickstarter titles kind of work together, and they give like little elements of each other, so you can get Shovel Knight in about 18 different games because of that. And yeah, there's that was one thing that was added after I initially played the game, and it was kind of neat to see that was coming.
Well, now I didn't know that I wanted this, but now I want a Shovel Knight game done in this art style, because that would be amazing. Oh my goodness, I love Shovel Knight.
For sure.
All right, so that is the next up on Stadia, but then we go to the next week because we took a week off, and we've got this week on Stadia. So first off, you can play Borderlands 3 for free. You've heard Lloyd and I go on and on and on about Borderlands 3 a million times if you've been listening to this. It's a great game. Play it for free. When is it free? I'm trying to 9 a.m. Pacific time on April 8th until April 12th. So right now you can still play it for free. If you have yet to try the game and you are a pro subscriber, you definitely want to check it out. But then we've got 2 other games that were mentioned this week. Darkseid Detective and Trials of Cold Steel 4. Now, Trials of Cold Steel 4, I'm interested in checking out. That's another JRPG, but it's more turn-based. So very, very different than Ys 8. And
Yep.
it's weird how we always lump all JRPGs together, but these are two very different genres, but they're both JRPGs, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then there's Darkseid Detective, which is kind of like a point and click adventure. But there's a little confusion here because if you go back, and I should have put this in the show notes, but if you go back last year sometime, they said that Darkseid Detective was going to be a Stadia Pro game when it
Right.
launched, and now it's not, apparently. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe there was some confusion. I know that the Darkseid Detective folks are part of the Stadia Makers program, so maybe they thought the fact that there's going to be a pro deal is the same as it being free with pro. Maybe there was some miscommunication, or maybe there was plans for it to be free with pro, and then that changed, or maybe it's coming next month. There was some miscommunication there, but don't let that stand in the way of you checking out this really fun looking point and click adventure game, back to like the old kind of LucasArts kind of style of point and click. Like if you're playing I don't even know, like Police Quest or King's Quest or Guybrush Threepwood could fit in this world pretty easily. It looks fantastic, and as far as we've come from the point and click adventure genre, it's nice to see that genre kind of dropping games every little while for people that really do love kind of like the point and click adventure games from back in the day.
I'm sure that people have heard me say this before. I love the idea of a point and click adventure, but every time I play one, what happens is I get to a puzzle that I think needs to be solved by putting A with B.
Right.
And the developer said, no, we solved that by putting C with D. And
Right.
my brain says, well, that's stupid, and I can't figure it out, and I get stuck, and it always happens really early on, so I am not going to play this game. But if you're a fan of point and click adventures, then this one looks really, really cool, and I do love the art style. Let's move on to, you mentioned the Stadia makers. We've got 10 indie games on the way to Stadia. Darkseid Detective is one of those. I'm going to list off the other ones real quick, and then we'll talk about like the ones that we're most interested in. So Darkseid Detective, 100 Days, Foreclosed, Figment 2, She Dreams Elsewhere, Marique's Market, Grime, Death Carnival, Jay and Silent Bob, Chronic Blunt Punch, and Sky Climbers. All right, I'm going to let you go first. Of those, pick two that speak to Lloyd.
Okay, well, I'm going to be picking from the fourth column in the image that they put together. Death Carnival and Jane Silent Bob Chronic Death Punch, or Chronic Blunt Punch, are both games that I'm super interested in. I had no idea that Death Carnival was a game until I watched the trailer. It looks like a spiritual successor to Smash TV and Total Carnage. It looks fantastic. 3D top-down dual stick action. So I'm excited for that one. And Jane Silent Bob Chronic Blunt Punch looks like just a ridiculously fun side-scrolling beat 'em up. This is done by the same team that did the last Jane Silent Bob game, which was a NES game that you could actually play on an NES that was then ported to a bunch of different platforms as a different game. I can't remember what that one was called, but I love that. They showed trailers after that game came out of what Jane Silent Bob Chronic Blunt Punch was, and they kickstarted it. I believe it was on Kickstarter. So this has been around for a while. I found it through the fact that I picked up the NES styled version, and then I saw what this was going to be, and it reminds me of the Streets of Rage 4 title, where it's really high quality hand drawn art, side scrolling beat 'em up. It looks like it's so much fun. And of course, Kevin Smith in the chat room is happy for Jane Silent Bob Chronic Blunt Punch. That makes sense, Kevin. But yeah, this game speaks to me. I love Kevin Smith. Both Kevin Smiths, I guess the one that's in our chat room, and Kevin Smith, the filmmaker, if they're not the same person.
Gotta be the same person.
I love all his movies. I love Jay and Silent Bob. One of my favorite comedy series, where if you just want to unplug your brain for an evening and you want to laugh, they're great for that. And to play that in side-scrolling beat 'em up form is just going to make me so happy.
Yeah, so I'm with you on Death Carnival. That one definitely looks good. I'm also with you on Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, or not Strike Back. That's the movie. Jay and Silent Bob Chronic Blunt Punch. But the game that got my attention the most for me was Grime. This
Prime
is a
looks so good.
side-scrolling uh, style game, and it looks so like the art style is so cool. Fast forwarding to the actual gameplay footage, I love the world that they are building here. Now,
Yeah,
what I notice when I'm looking at this is that there is no UI.
yeah,
And I hope that that's the case. I hope that as you're playing this, there is no UI, no numbers on the screen showing you what's happening. I think that this looks awesome. And I love the move set that this main character seems to have. It
yeah,
looks fantastic. And there's this moment where where somebody throws a spear at him and he catches it and throws it back. And I was just like, oh
yeah,
man, that looks
yeah.
really cool.
Or
Everything.
sucks up other things into black holes and then shoots them back at the other enemy and stuff. It looks like the combat in this game is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, this game looks really awesome. And so if when I was going to pick, I was going to pick Grime and I was going to pick Jay and Silent Bob's
Right.
game because they're both side scrollers and I do love a good side scroller.
Yeah.
And let us know in chat which of those games is the one that appeals to you the most, because we're definitely interested in what you have to say about that. All right,
Definitely.
anything else for that stuff?
No, just it's great to see Stadia partnering with a bunch of smaller devs to put their games on the platform. Microsoft has their own program to do that. Sony has their own program to do that, which is a little bit less clear what you have to go through to get into that program as a developer. Seeing Stadia work so closely with these more independent developers is such a good thing. Stadia is a great platform for developing games, and if you can develop games easily, especially in COVID times, and then release your title onto Stadia and have people pick it up and play it, it's got to be a great feeling for all these people. So congrats to the 10 devs that were shown off in this I don't know, Stadia Makers wrap up of 10 games. Hopefully this is just the start of things to come from the Stadia Makers program.
All right, let's move on to crowd play. This is where we talk about the things that you guys want us to talk about. Earlier today, Sukotronic sent in a super chat with no message along with it. So thank you very much for that, Sukotronic. And I need to bring this up here. There we go. Then Anthony Telkett sent in a super chat. He said there are some rumors that PS5 will integrate their own version of Game Pass with PS Now and movie rentals. In my opinion, Google should add music or movies too to try and compete. Thoughts? So listen, Anthony, first off, thank you very much for the support. I think that absolutely Google needs to have some kind of combo where,
Yeah,
because I subscribe to YouTube Premium. That way I don't get any ads on YouTube because I watch a lot of YouTube. Um, I don't get any ads on YouTube. It comes with music. It also sometimes comes with like a free a free membership to like a YouTuber, but it's not always there. Like Twitch has it so that it's always there. You can always subscribe to somebody as part of your subscription, which is great. YouTube Premium needs to do that. But I would
sure.
love to see a combo that brings in Stadia Pro into that, at a couple more bucks a month or something like that. I think
Yeah,
that they would grab a lot of people. And I would prefer that they expand what you get with a subscription like that instead of locking 4K behind the subscription. Because, look, I'm sure that there are people who subscribe to Stadia Pro because they want 4K.
right.
But my guess is if you asked most people who subscribe to Stadia Pro, why do you subscribe to Stadia Pro? Most of them will say, for the games that I get as part of it each month. I think that
Sure.
that's what most people would probably say. What do you think about Anthony's idea, Lloyd?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sony doing that makes total sense. And if Sony and Microsoft are having sort of a Game Pass thing, having some benefits to Stadia and other cloud platforms would make sense as well. I'm paying for YouTube Premium. I'm paying for Google One. I'm paying for Stadia Pro subscriptions in the house because of my kids playing Stadia. It's it would be nice if there was an easier way to do it. Like if they had Google One actually was the one service from Google that gives you access to everything, that would be fantastic. I'd love to see that for sure.
Yes, include like the Google Photos unlimited thing with
Yeah,
Google One, and you know, your Google Drive storage and YouTube Music and
sure.
Stadia Pro, and like include all of that stuff. I think that would be definitely good.
Four,
As go
4K makes sense to be locked behind the pro thing. I get both sides why it's there and why maybe it shouldn't be there. I understand both arguments. The one feature that I'd love for Stadia Pro that would make my life much easier would be the ability to pause a game for more than 10 minutes. Like maybe the ability to pause a game for 30 minutes. Because if I have to go up and do something with the kids or eat, I don't always want to save, quit, shut down Stadia, go do that, come back, fire Stadia back up, and I don't know, load up my save game. It'd be nice if I could just pause the game for a half hour before the Stadia blade kicks me off. That would be a really cool feature and probably easy for Stadia to add, or for Google to add rather, to Stadia, would be to do that. I understand more people that are pausing games, less blades that are available for people that want to play games. I understand there's probably a push and pull conversation that has to be that has to happen for Google to come up with that 10-minute number. But the number of times where if I just had like an extra 5 minutes of pausing, I wouldn't have to, I don't know, miss out on some gameplay because you can't save at every point in whatever game I'm playing. It'd be really nice if they could expand that particular aspect of Stadia and add it as a bonus for Stadia Pro members.
and you know what? I have a counter to that. Instead of doing that, which you're right, does tie up blades and makes it so that less people are able to play or whatever. Although I've never run into an issue where I wanted to play and I couldn't. That's not the
Right.
case on the other cloud platforms. But on
Right.
Stadia, I've never been like said, I want to play a game and I can't play a game right now. It's never happened to me.
Yep.
But what I think would be a better implementation is if they just
Save states.
use save states where you just
Yeah.
hit a button and you know, like if I hit a button and shut the game off and then come back later, and if the first thing I do is like when I power on my controller, if I hit that button, load that last save state that I was in and put me exactly where I was, because
That would be great.
it would be amazing. I have been playing a stupid amount of Monster Hunter Rise on my Nintendo Switch, and I didn't save for I think like 20 hours
Yikes.
because I never had to shut the game off. I just, when I finished, I hit the home button and close
Right.
and closed it. And you know, then when Pac-Man 99 came out, I was like, I went to start it and it was like, do you want to save before you quit? And I was like, oh my God. I hadn't saved yet.
Yikes.
So yeah, I
Yikes.
saved, but like that kind of thing, it exists on Nintendo, it exists on PlayStation, it exists on Microsoft. Stadia is the only console where you can't just hit a button and walk away and come back
Right.
later and jump right back into exactly where you were before. And you know, you look at a game like Dragon Quest 11S. Sometimes you go
Yeah.
a long time without a save. And
Yeah.
like I get to a point and I'm like, well, damn it, I have things I have to go do. I'm going to
Mhm.
lose all of the progress that I made because I didn't quite make it to the place that I needed to go to before I had to shut the game off. And that's really, really frustrating. And of course, that's on the game designers for not letting me save whenever I feel like it. But, you know, Google could give us something to alleviate that symptom.
It would be nice. I understand there's going to be a lot of difficulty doing something like that because let's just say there's 16 gigs of RAM in a blade. We don't really know exactly how much RAM is there, what is used by the blade, what is used by game devs. Well, let's just throw out a random number, 16 gigs. When you hit a save state, it would have to take that 16 gigs and write it to disk somewhere. but then put it somewhere that is accessible to every single blade that you could possibly be playing on. So there'd be some pretty big engineering that would have to be done by Google to get that sorted out. But they have some of the smartest people in the world working for them, so I'm sure they would be able to do that. I use the quick resume or whatever they call it on Xbox all the time when you just want to fire up a game and be right where you were left off. Once you use it, you start to think, why hasn't like the game industry always had this? Like, why isn't this something I could always do? Being able to do that on Stadia for the last game that you played, even if it's only that, it would be fantastic if they could add that in the future, because some games take 2 minutes to start up. Even though the stream starts in 30 seconds, the actual game getting to the point where you can actually control stuff with your sticks and buttons does take some time. So yeah, that would be another great feature.
Let's move on to a super chat from Bernard Baker. He sent in a super chat. Thank you very much for the support, Bernard. And he said, with Google's, sorry, I'm going to hit a button here. With Google's PR experience with events, connects/good stuff versus constant weekly announcement posts, which method do you think that they should stick with? I'm going to let you go first.
I think both. That's kind of I'm kind of ruining your question by saying both, but I think the daily trickle or weekly trickle of news through press releases makes the most sense for us, the content creators, the super fans, the people that want to write articles on Ars Technica and Kotaku and all the other blogs out there. That steady trickle of news is good because it gives people the constant slap that, hey, Stadia's a thing. Remember, Stadia's a thing. But the big connects is where you get the eyeballs of people that don't follow those gaming blogs, aren't in the Team Stadia following that hashtag or whatever. It hits the people that aren't those, that are already getting inundated with Stadia news. So I think both are important. But I really love the change that they've made to having regular weekly, multiple weekly posts instead of just the one Tuesday post. And if something breaks on Wednesday, well, you don't find out about it until the next Tuesday. I like the small little tweak that they did in their PR to do multiple weekly emails and blog posts about all the big Stadia news.
And I agree with everything you said. I'm just going to add in that I also really do like the hype around big announcements. It's fun. It's really fun.
It is.
However, it's dangerous. So I think that if they do Stadia Connects, and this would be bad for us as content creators that cover this, but if they do that, they should always do a shadow drop. Like they should just go, here's a Stadia Connect, and everybody's caught flat-footed, and we're like, what? And why is that bad for us? Because our biggest spike in views is always around those kind of things, and especially if we're live covering it. Like we'll have we'll have over 1,000 people here watching us cover it, which is super fun and awesome, and it helps us a lot. But I think it's bad for the platform as a whole, because whenever they announce it ahead of time, everybody starts speculating. Me too. We start speculating, and then when things that we speculate about don't happen, people get real salty. And I think that that's always a bad thing. So for Stadia, keep doing those weekly things. Also do a Stadia Connects, good stuff, that kind of thing. But when you do those things, do not pre-announce them at all. Just say, bam, here's a thing, and everybody's kind of blown away. Instead of having them say, hey, we're going to do a thing on Friday, and everybody spends all week predicting what's going to happen and then get salty when it doesn't happen. Anyway, thank you very much, Bernard, for the super chat. SciTech Nerd, I like that name. He sent in a super chat. Thank you for the support. He said, or she said, I don't know. I'm not judging your gender on this. That says, did you guys know Microsoft just inadvertently gave Stadia a boost with the upcoming Chromium-based? Whoops, that scrolled on me. Chromium-based Edge coming to Xbox. Stadia works great. Yeah, we knew about that. I think Lloyd is in the beta, but not at the right level of beta to test that yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I haven't checked recently to see if I got a new circle push out or whatever they call their groups, the rings, whatever they call it. I don't know. I don't think I have that new version of Edge yet. I'm gonna have to double check and see. But yeah, the fact that you have a full standards compliant browser on your console means that you can use all standards compliant services on that console. Means other streaming services for video, other streaming services for audio, podcast players, YouTube, and Stadia, and PlayStation Now, and Luna, and all the other streaming services. So you could buy the one $500 box and then have access to absolutely everything. It just makes total sense, and it takes what Microsoft has been doing for the last couple of years, where they want Xbox to be ubiquitous with gaming. They don't want it to be ubiquitous with Xbox gaming, but just gaming in general. And that's why you get a lot of that advertising where they just want to get out there in the world. That's why there's rumors that Game Pass is coming to like Switch and other consoles with big deals in the future. We'll see if that actually happens. It's smart for Microsoft to do that instead of the normal gatekeeping thing that platform holders usually do. Like Sony famously said, "Well, we don't want to do crossplay because we want to protect our players," which is just the biggest cop out ever. And it's kind of funny when you look back at that comment, because it's just that no part of that statement is true, but okay. And then you see what Microsoft is doing, and it's kind of the other end of the spectrum compared to Sony.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Darren Pogue sent in a super chat. He said, thank you very much, Darren. He didn't say that. I'm saying that. He said, do you think Stadia needs to improve Pro to include new releases and expand the library to compete against Game Pass, given it's the same price? I think they're wildly different. Look, in the short term, Game Pass is if you subscribe for a month, Game Pass is absolutely a better deal. If you subscribe for 1 month, if you subscribe for a year, I think that Stadia Pro is a better deal. And the reason why I think it's a better deal is because you get to keep those games that you are subscribed to. Whereas with Game Pass, they rotate in and out, kind of like HBO back in the 80s, where they would be like, this month you can watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, and next month you won't be able to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I know that there's always going to be people who say, but then they give you a discount on the game if you want to buy it after the fact. And that's true. But in the long term, over a long period of time, I think that Stadia Pro is a better deal. Now, would giving us new releases make it an even better deal? Yeah, of course. I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Whether or not Google is willing to pony up the dough in order to get third-party people on board with saying, oh, and by the way, Outriders is free with Stadia Pro, that's a question that has to be asked. Now, obviously, Microsoft just did that. Like they said, you know what, we're going to include that in Game Pass. But the thing about that is, I'm sure that Microsoft went there and said, here you go, Square Enix, here's a bunch of money. Let us put it on Game Pass. But Square Enix knows that eventually it's going to rotate out of Game Pass. And if people really like the game, then they're going to need to buy it anyway. Whereas with Stadia Pro, once you claim a game, it's yours as long as you're subscribed. And so I think that if you want to get, third parties on board with that kind of thing, you either have to significantly increase the amount of money that you will give them in order to get it on Stadia Pro, or B, have a part of Stadia Pro that is that rotational kind of force where things come in and go out. And that's a lot more like Game Pass, which honestly, if Stadia had launched with a service that was like Game Pass and not like Stadia Pro, I think that the story would be wildly different, but I don't think it would be as good of a deal. What do you think about that, Lloyd?
Yeah, I like everything that you said. The thing that that kind of changed the idea of big games coming to Stadia Pro for me was the shutting of SG&E. You always knew that if Stadia made a game, it was going to be part of Pro, and it would always be part of Pro, and it would be kind of like Game Pass in that in that case, where Microsoft buys a studio, they buy ZeniMax, and all of a sudden every Doom, Quake, I don't know, Elder Scrolls, all those games, Fallout, are all just appearing on the service. Without internal development, I think that's going to be tougher for Stadia to do. But I'd love like the next big AAA game, a multi-platform AAA game, to be free with Pro and $60-$70 on every other platform, similar to what Microsoft did with Outriders. You got to think Outriders is free on Game Pass because they're using Azure as their server backend. I think Microsoft said, hey, if you use our servers instead of one of the other guys, we'll give you this big chunk of money. You won't have to pay for your servers, and then we can give the game away for free as part of Game Pass, and it's going to be a benefit both sides, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure there was some behind the deals talks to that, to kind of that subject, where user servers will give them to you for free because we want to get them out there into the gaming world. I don't think Stadia has that kind of carrots to put on a stick right now, but hopefully they do in the future. And hopefully it's not just a carrot, is here's a big ton of money and we'll give your game away, because I don't think that is really going to be something that can be supported for a long time. Spending tens of millions of dollars to get a big AAA onto Stadia Pro, I don't think they can do that for very many months before the bean counters say, hey, wait a second, this column in the spreadsheet is way bigger than it should be. What's happening here? So yeah, we'll have to see how the service evolves. But we are getting this month that just hit, April, we got Resident Evil 7, SpongeBob SquarePants, and Ys 8, which are all big AAA games. And then we got Pikuniku, which is a really great indie game. So we are getting those big AAA games. They're just not new day and date AAA games in the service.
Yeah, but they're new to me. And that's really, I mean,
exactly.
If you already played those games, then I can understand why you would be a little disappointed in that. But more often than not, I'm sure that when you're dropping like 4 games a month, for $10, I think that's a really good deal, and chances are probably at least one of them you've never played before, and I think that that's pretty compelling. Ruben DeGeeling sent in a super chat. Thank you very much for the support. He said, the Nerd Nest Cat Track and Fantastic Beard Fund. Oi, guys, I need new ideas for new funds. Please provide ideas. Save Stadia isn't a thing either. I don't know what he means by Save Stadia. Do you know what he means by that?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah, maybe something I don't know, maybe there's a new hashtag that we haven't seen because of all the other hashtags that are out there.
Yeah, I don't know. Ruben, thank you very much for the support. We really do appreciate it. As far as funds, I have no idea. Do you have any ideas for him?
The I have no idea fund.
There you go. The I have no idea fund. I'm sure that there'll be something that I'll come up with that I want to use to improve the stream. And when I do, I'll let you know. But sure. Thank you very much for the support. You're awesome. And thank you to everybody for the support. Real quick, I'm going to scroll through our recent, I'm not going to read them all off because there's a lot of them, but I'm going to scroll through our recent members. That's a lot of members. So thank you guys very much for the support. We do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Like, honestly, it blows me away every time I look at that and I'm like, holy cow, you guys are amazing.
Yeah. Again, we took a week off and I was worried that there'd be some blowback. Everyone was super supportive. Everyone understood that we wanted to spend Easter Sunday with our family. That was great. And just to see the support over the last little bit has just been wonderful. So again, we say it, I say it often, but I can't say it enough, which is, thanks everybody. We appreciate you coming out and spending your time on Sundays with us, listening to the podcast, sharing our content, commenting on our content, watching our first looks, dropping funny comments in Discord. Every little bit of it makes the days easier to get through when there's such an awesome community as we have here on Nerd Nest.
And speaking of the Nerd Nest community, there's one thing that I wanted to talk about very quick before we get out of here. I know we're going long today, but I definitely wanted to mention this. Discord has a new feature called the Stage. And I experimented with it earlier on this week or last week. It is really, really cool. and I anticipate that I'm going to be using it for open mics in the future. But basically, there's a stage on our community Discord. There's a link in the description down below, and thanks, Ruben. Ruben, he's funny. There's a link in the description down below so you can join our Discord. But basically, what I think I might be doing is, or the way that the stage works is, I can open it up and I can be up on the stage. I called it the arcade. And we can all be in the arcade kind of listening together, but then people can like raise their hand and be like, hey, I have a thing that I want to talk about. And I can then bring them up into the stage. They can, with voice, say their question or comment, and then I can respond to this, or Lloyd can, or whatever. And we're going to be using that more in the future. I think we can't use it during the actual show because our cameras only work in Discord, and we can't open two things at the same time. So, but we'll do like open mics and stuff like that with it. And sometimes we've done it last week where it was just, there was no content created. I didn't record it or anything. We just sat down and had conversations with people, and it was really, really fun. So if you haven't joined our Discord, check out the link in the description down below and absolutely join. And we just had a bunch of people who are, we just had Ruben DeGeeling send in another super chat saying the No Idea Fund, that's not very creative. And Gotta Mind Animation sent in a super chat as well. Thank you very much for that. Anything else before we get out of here, man?
It looks like Gotta Mind had a question that wasn't included with the super chat. After the success of CP 2077, the strategy of closing down their studio and focusing on luring AAA games made sense to me. Yet there was hysteria in the media. How does Stadia avoid bad press? Good question. I think it's kind of too late. That cat's out of the bag. They closing down SG&E was a huge article, which is still out there. Like some Android blog, was it Android Central,
Maybe.
said, I think that's what it was, said like Google's 5 biggest misses, and one of it was Stadia, or one of failures, I think it was what they used, and they said Stadia because SG&E closed down, which is just like, what? How is that? How could you get from point A to point B with that line of thought? I don't understand. But anyway, I think the fact that they've ripped off the Band-Aid instead of pulling it off slowly was a good thing for Google. Hopefully, if Stadia's around in 5-10 years, people will forget that even happened, and Google will invest in other game studios. But there really is no way to avoid bad press. It seems like the bulk of the gaming industry doesn't want to admit that cloud streaming is a thing that a lot of people prefer. It's the butt of all the jokes still. It's going to take a while for that to go away. Just as it was going away, SG&E closed down, and then it all kind of came rushing back. So hopefully time will keep that from happening.
Yeah, and you know what? I tweeted this out, but there's a lot of people who send me messages. I get a lot of, my DMs on Twitter are open, so people send me a lot of DMs on Twitter, and they're like, hey, Bill, how come you don't defend Stadia against these bad articles or something like that? And my answer to that is always, because I don't care what these other people think of Stadia. I care what I think of Stadia. I like it. I think it's a fantastic platform, and I like playing on it, which is why when there's a good article, I tend not to say anything. When there's a bad article, I tend not to say anything, because the opinion that that people should care about is their own. Like, you should care about your opinion more than you care about Kotaku's opinion. Because honestly, Kotaku, while maybe they post a bad thing about Stadia, that's their job. Their job is to analyze the market, and their job is to get clicks. And I'm not saying that any article that puts Stadia in a bad light is just clickbait. And I'm not saying that any article that puts Stadia in a good light is this fantastic journalism or whatever. But what you have to realize is that if you ask the majority of gamers out there, what do you think of Stadia? I would say probably most of them would say, I don't know what that is. Most of them would not know what it is. The people who are constantly saying horrible things about it are a very small minority. And the people who are even who are constantly shouting to the rooftops about how great it is are a very small minority. The vast majority of gamers are unaware, and that's just going to take time to make them aware. And as they play games on any screen without having to worry about installs or downloads, that's going to change a lot of people's mind, or that's going to make a lot of people believers in cloud gaming. Does that make sense, Lloyd?
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself, Bill. That is exactly why we're here to release content on this channel of games that we love, things that we love, geeky things that we're into. We're not here to cheerlead, and I know a lot of people are disappointed at that fact, and that's cool too. Everyone has their own opinions, and we're here to do what we do, and hopefully the people that are watching us do it enjoy it as much as we enjoy creating that content.
All right, that's it for this episode of Stadiacast. Remember, if you want to be here live with us, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern on Sundays over at nerdnest.tv. And if you're listening to this either live or you're watching it on the YouTube channel and you're like, you know what, this would be a pretty good podcast. Well, guess what? It is a podcast. Just go to your favorite podcast player, search for Stadiacast, and hit subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it absolutely helps us out. So thanks everybody for being here and hanging out with us. Lloyd, why don't you tell everybody goodbye?
Yeah, take it easy, everybody. It was great being back after a week off. Thanks for hanging out with us and keeping us honest. And let us know in the comments if you want me to do first looks of all the games we talked about that I was on the fence about. Drop a comment, and we'll see what we can do.
All right, bye everybody. And save. There we go. We did it. And awesome. You know what? After 2 weeks, we were still able to get it down to an hour 15. I feel like that was mission accomplished right there.
That was good. I was worried there for a bit. We were still talking about the first article about 40 minutes in. I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a long one. No, we did it. We did it. This is great. Everybody in chat, thanks for coming out. You folks are fantastic.
Save. All right, it's saved. Okay. Is there anything we missed in chat before I close everything down?
I don't think so. I think everything in chat looks good. You people are awesome as always. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you next Sunday.
Bye.